Hello, and welcome back to another video. This is the 18th episode of story in which the 4th Shinobi World War was over, and Naruto was finally captured by Madara. But is hope truly gone? And what the heck is happening to the Ghetto Mazo? Join our favorite blonde hero and the nine-tailed beasts on their great journey to the past. Let's see how Naruto deals with this. After you've finished watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To begin, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this show going. Our new experiment is progressing very well, it seems. Yes. But we are still lacking a very important element. Without it, even if we perfect this, it is still not enough for us to go against things like the Nine Tails and his lackeys. The underground laboratory of Orochimaru was still bathed in an eerie light, as usual. But this time, the source of the light was the giant test tube standing in the middle of the room. Inside, there was a glowing green fluid, which emitted the creepy light. But that wasn't the only thing in the tube. If someone had paid more attention, they could have seen a very tiny thing floating inside it. The thing didn't even look like anything, its size was about that of a fingernail, but there was only one thing for sure about it, which was that it was moving, albeit so slightly normal eyes couldn't see it without focusing solely on the thing. So, is our plan for the Three Tails and Karagakure still progressing as expected? Of course. But even if it doesn't, we still have an alternative. An even better one. Naruto Uzumaki is here, sir. The third Hokage smiled pleasantly at the secretary who had just announced Naruto's arrival. Very good. Send him in. Yo, I'm here. What's up, Jigi? Hiru's inside. You are becoming more and more like Jiraiya these days, Naruto. Can't you wait until I let you in? Nah, Naruto answered him with a cheeky grin. So, is there any trouble you want me to solve? The Akatsuki attacking Sunagaku again? Tailed beasts trampling over a village? Or? No, it's nothing like that, the older man cut in hastily before Naruto could continue his rant. You see, the next Chunin exam is coming soon, and that is the best opportunity for Fu to be promoted to Chunin before she can officially be recognized as a Jonin. But in order to take part in the Chunin exam, what she needs is a team. I have already decided the members of the team she's going to be in, so I'm pretty sure she's going to do well in her exam. Ah, that's awesome, Naruto laughed. So who's going to be her Jonin sensei? The Hokage smiled cheerfully. You, of course. Naruto's grin froze on his face. Then after 3 seconds, he disappeared from the office in a flash. Naruto Uzumaki, come back here right now. After 5 hours of chasing around the village, with the help of half the shinobi force of Konoha including Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiruzen himself, Naruto was finally brought back to the office, bound and gagged not unlike a certain purple-haired Kunoichi 3 years ago, with the addition of a bunch of powerful chakra restraining seals on his body to prevent him from using his Flying Thunder God Jutsu to escape. And right now, Naruto was cursing like a sailor in his mind, as Kurama and the other tailed beasts hadn't even responded when he desperately called them for help. I thought I taught you better, Naruto. The Toad Sage looked down at Naruto's tied-up body on the ground and clicked his tongue. But Naruto could swear his eyes were gleaming in a gleeful joy. You don't have the right to say that to me, pervy sage, Naruto glared at his teacher. The sage clutched the right side of his chest in mocking pain. Oh, I'm hurt. How can you say something like that to your poor sensei? And anyway, why should I be her Jonin sensei anyway? Naruto complained. Can't Sasuke or Sakura do that instead? They both don't have a team either. You're the one who understands Fu the best, not us. Sasuke looked at him with a deadpan expression. You're the one who trained with her for 3 years straight, so you should know all of her strong and weak points to help her improve in a team environment. You're the best choice for the position of Fu's Jonin sensei already. Besides, even if we wanted to be her Jonin teacher, it's impossible for us to do so, Sakura added in. We have our own roles in the incoming Chunin exam already, as well as any other free high-ranked shinobi, leaving you the only one who can lead Fu's team. So, suck it up and prepare yourself for your new duty, she finished with a mischievous grin. Naruto groaned and slammed his face on the ground. Don't worry Naruto, the third Hokage comforted his grandson figure. With the team I'm planning for you, I don't think you would need to put a lot of effort in training them. Come in, you three. The door opened, and 3 people entered the room. One was, of course, Fu in all her chipper and cheerful mood, and the other 2 were. You're kidding me, aren't you? It's been a long time since we last saw each other face to face, Naruto-kun. Or maybe I should say, Captain Naruto. Sigh, one of the 2 people who walked into the room together with Fu, greeted him with a fake smile. From your expression, I guess you already met Sai, Hiruzen smiled. He is one of the most skilled shinobi at the Jinan rank the village has to offer. No kidding, Naruto deadpanned. He's a freaking Onbu operative. How can he not be skilled? The third Hokage still didn't drop his smile. True, but in rank, he is still a Jinan, so he's more than qualified for the Chunin exam, ni? Somewhere in the room, a snicker could be heard. Right, Naruto glared at him. And this old man is Kosuke Maruboshi, the eternal Jinan of Konohagakure, Jiraiya answered in place of the third Hokage. He has worked in Konoha's shinobi force for more than 50 years, but he was never promoted to anything higher than a Jinan. Naruto gaped. What the? Doesn't that mean he is even older than you? In the sage's eyes, there was definitely a mischievous twinkle. Great, Sakura groaned. What kind of overpowered Jinan team is this? They are going to steamroll through the Chunin exam for sure. There goes my plan for the second task. The first thing you are going to do is to become familiar with each other, then, the third Hokage cut in. And I think the most perfect opportunity for you to create bonds between members of a team is a mission. Luckily for you, I have a mission that requires the power of you two right here. Ready? What kind of mission is that, Hokage-sama? Fu politely asked. The Hokage's eyes twinkled. The Three Tails has finally resurfaced, and Kirigakure has just sent a request to Konoha for assistance in communicating with him. You have 1 day to prepare for the mission. Today, I expect you to do everything you need to get used to the team environment, Team Naruto. Fu blinked when she saw Karen and Hinata walking towards her. On their faces, there was a similar expression of concern and caution. Karen is one thing, but it is so rare to see Hinata donning this kind of expression on her face. What's wrong, Karen-chan? Hinata-chan. Karen went straight to the point with a sharp voice. Fu, you have just been put into the same team with that Onbu named Sai for the Chunin exam, haven't you? Fu blinked again. Well, yes, but please be careful around him, Fu-san. This time, it was Hinata who spoke. Fu knew that when a person like Hinata speaks like that to her, there is definitely something wrong. Yeah, but why? I talked to him, besides being weird and everything, I don't think he is anything that bad. Karen didn't let Fu finish her sentence. Fu, do you remember the battle at the hospital 3 years ago? Fu was confused. Why did the Uzumaki girl bring this back at a time like this? Yes, I do. But then her eyes suddenly widened in horror. You don't mean? Yes, Fu-san, Hinata answered her. That Sai person was one of the people who tried to kidnap Naruto-kun at the hospital. Sasuke was tinkering with his newest project in his workshop. No one knew since when had he acquired the habit of messing around with machinery in his free time. Kiba had even said before that he somehow acquired a technology fetish when Naruto was away. Naturally, the dog boy had already eaten a punch to the face, but everyone else seemed to think that he made a point, much to Sasuke's annoyance. Absently, he pulled a notebook from the bookshelf above his head and opened it. He couldn't help thinking about the conversation with the second Hokage the other day, at the Senju mansion. What do you need me for, sir? The second Hokage motioned for Sasuke to come to him. Come here and have a look. The Uchiha went to the table where the white-haired Senju was sitting. On the table, there was a microscope with a petri dish attached on it. He took a glance into it, and frowned. This is a robot the size of a cell, yes, Tobirama nodded. This is one of the projects I was working on before the mission that took my life. This tiny robot has a rather interesting unique trait. Watch. Then he touched the corner of the petri dish. Before Sasuke's astonishment, the nanobot started multiplying at an astounding speed. The tiny robots, upon generation, immediately linked themselves with each other, and very quickly, the surface of the dish was covered by a layer of the material used to make the nanobots. I had been thinking about the regeneration ability of the Kubi Karabocho of Kirigakure before I died, the ex-Hokage explained. The idea of using the iron in enemy's blood to regenerate the blade when it is broken is just too absurd, if not to say ridiculous. That sword weighs about 100 kilos, you would need to slay at least 20,000 people and drain all their blood to repair half of the blade if that's the case. No, it's more likely that the sword is made from a type of material that is able to regenerate itself when exposed to chakra. It uses the chakra absorbed from the enemies as an energy source to generate this material to regrow the blade in case it is broken. Chakra is very rich in bodily fluid of all kinds, much richer than the iron in the blood. That's why such a thing makes way more sense than the blood iron idea. But I couldn't find out what the hell that kind of material is, so I tried a lot of different things. hoping that even if I couldn't completely replicate the technology, I could still make something close to it. And the closest thing to that I could ever find is, well, this. But isn't that defying every rule of physics ever? Sasuke blinked. Like, you just created something out of nothing but chakra. Indeed, Tobirama nodded in agreement. But don't you remember that shinobi were born to defy logic? This is basically a replica of the steel-style advanced element. Had it not been for your research on combining different elements into an advanced one, I would have never been able to complete this. It is a combination between the earth, water and fire elements. Luckily I had mastered all three before I passed away. As long as you still apply enough chakra into the container of the nanobot, it will keep multiplying and stay firm at the form it is intended for. But when you stop... He lifted his finger off the dish. The structure formed by the nanobots gradually disintegrated in front of Sasuke's eyes. I see. Sasuke pondered. It sounds very familiar though. Just like the creation rebirth technique of Lady Tsunade, yeah. Just, instead of regenerating organic cells using chakra, now we use artificial cells made from metal. That's right, the undead Hokage nodded again. The difficult thing is how to control the growth of the nanobots, how to form them into the shapes we want and how to keep them in place even after stopping the flow of chakra into them. If my theory is true, then the person who created the legendary swords of Karagakure really was a genius. Those swords lasted centuries, even before the great villages were established, and yet they are still among the greatest weapons of all ages. If we can somehow master the art of controlling and shaping nanobots, it will be the greatest breakthrough in ninja tech ever. Sasuke closed the note with a slight chuckle. Figuring out the theory is one thing, but putting it into practice is another thing, completely different and way more difficult. Not to mention the amount of money and material they would have to spend in order to make it a real thing. Still, it was an idea worth considering, and if he could bring it into practice, for what he was trying to make. Bang! Bang! The Uchiha jumped upon the sudden noise. He was still wearing the dirty shirt full of oil spots he usually wears when working with machinery, and his hand was still holding a screwdriver. But there's no time to worry about that. Grabbing Namikaze on the table, he ran out of the workshop to the front door, fully expecting a break-in. Sasuke? Are you home? I need your help. The Uchiha blinked when he realized Naruto's voice. He opened the door to see the Jinchuriki, whose face was full of panic. What happened? Did the Akatsuki attack you again? Even worse. What the hell can I do now? Sasuke was clearly at a loss now. Okay, just come inside to talk first. The corner of Sasuke's left eye twitched. Okay, let's round it up. So you are panicking because you don't know what to do with your team? Yes. Naruto wailed. Have you even looked at me? I'm good at fighting, not leading a team. I don't even know how to be a teacher. And I only have one day to figure out everything. What should I do? Arg. The Uchiha's forehead started twitching while watching Naruto run around like a headless chicken. Finally, unable to stand it anymore, he snapped his finger. A torrent of water blasted Naruto right on his face. The Jinchuriki was sent sprawling on the ground, sputtering. What the? Can you even calm down a bit, idiot? Towering over the Jinchuriki, Sasuke growled. Looking at you like this, even the calmest head could go crazy. Just think of it as a way to cool your head. But Sasuke didn't let Naruto finish his sentence. Look, dude, he grabbed the Jinchuriki's shoulder. You are the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tails Fox. You have faced Zabuzama Mochi, Orochimaru, the leader of the Akatsuki, and a lot of powerful enemies before. You even befriended the most powerful tailed beast. And now you are running away from such a small task as leading a team of Genin? Easy for you to talk, Naruto grumbled. You don't even have a Genin team to lead. How can you know how difficult it is? It's true, the Uchiha nodded, completely unfazed. I might not know anything about leading a team, but we are not the only Jonin in this village. There are still a lot of people you can go ask for advice. Why don't you just go and ask them first? Asuma-sensei. Kurenai-sensei. The aforementioned couple blinked in surprise when they heard their names being called. Then they smiled when they realized who had just called them. Well, isn't it Naruto? Asuma laughed. What a surprise to see you here today. Aren't you busy with your new team? That's what I want to seek your advice about. The Jinchuriki stopped right in front of them, a little bit out of breath from running so fast. Can we go somewhere we can talk? The two Jonin blinked again. So that's the problem, huh? Asuma and Kurenai looked at the newbie Jonin in front of them with a look full of amusement. Yeah, Naruto said in depression. When I accepted to take the Jonin exam, I didn't think it would be this difficult. Kurenai giggled. You remind me of myself when I first took care of my team, Naruto. It was difficult at first, but when I got to know them a bit, it turned out not to be that difficult. So don't worry, you will get it sooner or later. Just take your time with them and try to understand them little by little. Easy for you to say, Naruto scowled. I haven't had any experience leading a team before. Have you tried talking to them, Naruto? Asuma suddenly asked. Naruto blinked. Well, I haven't had a chance to do that. Then I suggest you go and do a team introduction first. The older man nodded, just like what you did with your team when you first met each other. Then, take them out somewhere to eat might be a good thing. I did that to my team at our first meeting, too. Then he scratched his head. Well, maybe it was because our team has a big eater like Shoji, but still. Naruto's face brightened. Thank, Asuma-sensei, Kurenai-sensei. Veil, this is not gonna be good. Naruto's eyebrow twitched like crazy while looking at the three members of his team. How could he not worried at all, when Fu of all people was glaring at the younger male member of the team with an eye full of hostility and killing intent? Okay, he coughed awkwardly. So, introduction? You know, your name, your hobbies, what you like, what you hate, your dream for the future. I think as the captain of the team, you should be the one who introduces first, the oldest member of the team answered him with a smile. No one in the team showed any objection. Naruto sighed. Well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like a lot of things. And have a lot of hobbies. A lightning bolt shot out from the sky and fried Naruto right at the place he was standing. Naru-kun. Are you okay? Fu asked curiously, poking the charred twitching body of her fellow Jinchuriki on the ground. Damn you, Kakashi-sensei. Ahem. So, anyway. Naruto cleared his throat, pushing himself back up from the ground after his fried body recovered like nothing. I am the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox, as you all knew. Now, your turn. Starting from you, Sai, maybe? The fake smile never left the aforementioned shinobi's face. Is that in order, Captain? Naruto face-bombed. Yes, it is. Now, please. My code name for this mission is Sai, the Anbu agent spoke plainly but smoothly. I don't know what I like. I don't hate anything. I don't have any dream for the future. Naruto blanched. Just as he expected. This Sai was no different from the Sai he used to know in his past. So basically, we got even less information about him than about Naru-kun. Fu glared at the male, who just returned the hostile glare with another fake smile. Yeah, Naruto quelled her down. Let's see if you can do better, Fu-chan. Your turn. Of course I will do better than him, Fu exclaimed hotly, pumping her fist. My name is Fu, and I am going to become a top-tier Chunin of Konoha soon. I like to make new friends, meet new people, and I love everyone who is precious to me. My dream for the future is to become friend with everyone else in the world. And what I hate is... Suddenly her excited eyes turned into daggers aiming straight at the male sitting next to her. This bastard, she yelled, pointing at Sai. Oh boy. Just like our team when we first met Kakashi-sensei. Desperately trying his best to suppress a groan, Naruto turned towards the last member of the team. This old man had been intriguing Naruto since he first saw him. He had never met a Jonin as old as him in the past, even during his time. Just like knowing what he was thinking, the old man smiled. My name is Kosuke Maruboshi. I have been a Jonin for more 50 years, but now I think it is the time for me to become a Chunin. So, please take care of me, Captain. Why didn't you try to become a Chunin in the past? Naruto asked in curiosity. Usually the people I know would take the Chunin exam at the age of less than 20. The smile still stayed firmly on the old man's face. Please excuse me for not telling you the reason, Captain. It is a personal matter to me. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Fu was still glaring dagger at Sai, while the Anbu agent just smiled back at her with such a fake and innocent face as if he was mocking her. Finally, Naruto cleared his throat. Alright, so. Who wants some ramen? My treat. Okay, so. Introduction is complete. What should I do now? Maybe I should do the bell test like Kakashi-sensei did to us. That would be a bad thing to do, Naruto. Naruto nearly jumped when he heard Kurama's voice. Where have you been, Kurama? The fox gave him a mirth chuckle. We have always been here since the beginning, when you were chased around by half of Konoha. Naruto exploded. Then why didn't you do anything to help me? Shukaku answered in place of Kurama. We could have helped, but it's way more funny watching you squirm. You guys are a bunch of jerks. Anyway, Juki butted in. Bringing the conversation back to its topic, we all know that Fu is a person with skills rivaling yours, and since she has just been with you for 3 years, she kinda knew all the tricks you can pull on her. And that boy Sai, I don't know much about him, but since he used to be a member of the Anbu, his skills cannot be underestimated. We don't know anything about that old man, but he has been a shinobi since even before your father was born. He is very experienced, and is definitely someone you cannot afford to lower your guard around. And by now, I'm pretty sure they all knew what they must do during a bell test. Basically, if you try the bell test with them now, unless you are planning to blow up the whole village, you are going to put yourself in for a very humiliating defeat, no matter how strong you are. Remember, you are their Jonin sensei in name only. Naruto winced. Right, that makes sense. The team had reached Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto swept the curtain aside and walked into the store. Hey old man. Today is a special day, so I'm going to treat my team. The old ramen chef looked up from his counter and greeted Naruto with a bright smile. Ah, Naruto. What a surprise. Never thought I would live to see the day you finally treat someone to ramen. Naruto turned bright red at that statement. Hey, I'm not that stingy. Am I? You are, Naru-kun, Fu answered dryly. Everyone in the store laughed. Even Sai, who wasn't the type of person who understood a funny joke, also gave a confused smile. Then Tucci realized the man who stood behind Naruto. Ah, Kosuke-san. It's been a long time since I last saw you working as a shinobi. So what makes you decide to take Hokage-sama's offer and lead a team of your own? The old man laughed. Actually, starting from today, I'm going to join a Jinan team again. Captain Naruto here is the leader of my new team. The ramen restaurant suddenly went silent. The Ichiraku chef let out a small sigh. Is that so? I thought you already got over it and accepted the Jonin promotion. After all that time, why couldn't you? The old man cut in with a smile. Can we just stop that matter here and get to the eating part? Well, that was just weird, Naruto thought while slurping on his ramen. Old man Ichiraku knows Kosuke-san? I mean, well, he is old, but surely he couldn't be so famous even a ramen chef knew about his past, could he? Well, then old man is old, so it is obvious that he knows more about people in the village than you ever do, Kokuo reasoned. Besides, a ramen store is a place where a lot of people gather, especially one that is with the popularity of this store. I know, but it seems he knows things that I don't think he's supposed to know if the information just comes from serving ramen to people, Naruto pondered. Especially that last sentence, after all that time, who would say that to a person they only know from casual meetings like this? Can't believe there would be a day our Naruto could notice things like that, Shukaku snarked. Oi. He pondered. Considering the old man's reaction, this should be a long story. And they would have to depart for the mission the next day. Maybe he should just put that aside for the time being. He made a note to himself to ask Kakashi-sensei about that later, just in case he couldn't find out what had happened. The mission was the more important thing to focus on, anyway. Pain. The Three Tails is reported to have reappeared at a lake near the border of the Land of Water. The Rinnegan glowed in the darkness. I see. So did the villages have any reaction? Kirigakure has noticed that and has sent shinobi to go after it. And I heard Konoha also dispatched the Nine Tails to assist them. His team has just departed from the village a few hours ago. Unmistakably, it was possible to clearly see a flash of red in the David Path's Rinnegan now. Nine Tails. Yes, Toby nodded. We also need to send someone immediately if we want to get our hand on the Three Tails. Payne's David Path stood up from his seat. Then this is the chance for our newest recruits to show off. Send them to the Land of Water, and tell them if they can, slay as many friends of the Nine Tails as possible, but do not kill him. He is mine. Then he walked past Toby on his way out of the room. The masked Uchiha glanced at him with his single exposed Sharingan. Then why don't you go after them yourself? This is not the time, Payne answered coldly before disappearing into the darkness. But when the time comes, and I assure you that it is coming soon, he is going to fall by my hand. And I will enjoy seeing that. Very much. Unknown to both of them, a shadow was watching them secretly in a dark corner of the base. Comparing to the trip of Team Anko and Team Guy to Kirigakure, Team Naruto's trip to the Land of Water was a relatively short one. Well, especially when you have a member of the team who was able to fly. Why are you guys so late? I have been bored to death here for a while. Not all of us can fly like you, Fu-chan, Naruto deadpanned when the three males landed in front of the Jinchuriki girl, who had flown all the way from Konoha ahead of them and was now sitting on a rock, waving at them cheerfully. The sun was setting at the horizon. The team was now standing on a beach at the border between the lands of fire and water. Their destination was supposed to be across the sea. It would take about 6 or 7 more hours to get there. The only problem was, how are we supposed to get there? That island is hundreds of miles away from here, right? You're not telling me that we have to swim all the way there, are you? Naruto shook his head. Kirigakure is supposed to have a boat to come here to get us, but... Right on cue. A shadow suddenly rushed out from behind the rock Naruto's back was turning towards. The movement was so fast Naruto couldn't even react in time. Even the 3 Jonin who were standing around him couldn't even move a muscle. It launched itself towards the newly promoted Jonin and latched around Naruto's neck. I told you not to do that whenever we're supposed to meet, Haku-chan. Naruto sighed tiredly, grabbing the aforementioned girl by her waist so she wouldn't fall to the ground while happily swinging around by his neck. Haku finally detached herself from Naruto, but the peppy smile still stayed on her face. And Naruto finally got the chance to have a close look at the first girl who had ever given him a kiss. Comparing to the last time he had seen her 3 years ago, when he, together with Fu and Jiraiya had made a stop at Kirigakure as the first destination of their trip, Haku had changed quite a lot. She had returned to wearing a yukata like the first time they had met on the Great Naruto Bridge, but now, instead of the old gloomy green color, the outfit was bright blue with a pattern of snowflakes covering its surface. She looked way more mature and elegant, and even though it is usually not a combat-oriented outfit, Naruto knew it wouldn't stop her from giving any enemy she faced a whole hell of pain. It's safe to say that she had become a proper lady, even though her personalities were still as peppy and cheerful as ever. But the most important thing was, isn't that the famous longsword Nuabari of the 7 legendary swords of the mist? The oldest member of the team suddenly asked, obviously very interested in the object strapped tightly in a scabbard on Haku's back. She smiled, pulled the aforementioned object out of its scabbard and twirled it around like a rapier on her hand. Correct. Since I am the best shinobi of Kirigakure when it comes to fighting with Senbon, Mei-sama thought I would be able to put this to good use. And there you have it. I hadn't used a sword before this, but everything came to me as if I were born for this sword, seriously. Then she blinked. Wait, I know that Konoha is going to send a good team, but sending 4 Jonin for just a diplomatic mission. Isn't it a little bit overkill? Fu smiled awkwardly. Actually, Haku-chan. Naru-kun is the only Jonin among us. All 3 of us are just Jonin. At the moment. No, seriously. Haku gawked in disbelief at the information. Then, she started to laugh hysterically. Wah! Ah ha 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 ha! Oh my god, this is awesome! Your Hokage really has a sick sense of joke. Wait until Mei-sama hears about this. Naruto facepalmed seeing his friend rolling around on the ground laughing like crazy. Look, you are the one Kiri sent here to get us to where the 3 Tails is, right? But aren't you supposed to be here with the boat? Ah, that, Haku answered sheepishly. She had managed to stop laughing. It's not like the boat can come straight to the beach, isn't it? It is anchoring out there, waiting for us. She pointed to the sea. I'm actually waiting here to escort you to the boat. The team followed Haku's finger towards where she was pointing at. Now they could see a very tiny shape of a boat bobbling up and down gently at the horizon. Naruto grinned. Then what are we waiting for? 5 minutes later, Team Naruto, together with Haku, arrived at the boat. This is what you call a boat. This is a freaking battleship. Naruto didn't exaggerate a single bit with his exclamation. It was impossible to call the vehicle they were standing next to a mere boat. The hull of the ship was made from wood reinforced with steel, and was the most gigantic one Naruto had ever seen, with a length of at least 80 meters and a height of about 8. Standing on the water next to it, Naruto had to bend his body as far as he could to the back in order to see the full height of the ship. With the 3 sets of sails fully rigged on the hull, the Colossus was assured full speed on the sea at the land of water, since the wind is always very strong here. And Naruto could count 48 cannon heads on the broadside of the ship. It is not an exaggeration to say that this was a war machine. And how the hell can we get up there? It wasn't even necessary to look closely to know that Kosuke was right. The hull of the ship was coated in a type of paint, which Naruto figured out to be chakra repellent after touching it. There was no way anyone could use the tree climbing technique to climb onto the ship. But, just like answering his question, a rope ladder dropped down right next to the team. Everyone looked at each other, then shrugged and climbed up the ladder, one by one. Greeting them on the deck were Haku's 2 teammates, Chojuro and Shiro Ishigaki. Seeing the familiar faces, Naruto grinned and waved at them. Ah, hey you two. Still as shy as ever, Chojuro? The aforementioned swordsman gave him a meek smile and a hesitant wave, while the white-haired one reached his hand out to pull the Jinchuriki up onto the shipboard. Welcome aboard the KPN Byakuren, Naruto and his team. When everyone had arrived safely on board the ship, Fu looked around in awe. Wow! This is the biggest ship I've ever seen in my life. But I didn't see it when I was at Kirigakure 3 years ago. Shiro nodded. You are correct. This ship was constructed 1 year after your departure. This is the masterpiece of the shipbuilding technology of Kirigakure, the flagship of Kirigakure People's Navy. Wait, what? Did you just say flagship? Hearing those words, Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief. Isn't this just a diplomatic mission? What do you need the most powerful warship in your navy for? That is because this mission is not simply a diplomatic mission anymore, Naruto-kun. Naruto snapped his head back toward where the new voice had come from. And his eyes widened. Ah! Mizukage Nijin. Mei Terumi giggled, while everyone else was terrified from Naruto's blasphemous way of calling the Mizukage of the Land of Water. Except for Haku. She pouted. Naruto-kun, you should change that way of calling, because if you don't, soon I will have to become your niece. Silence filled the air for a few seconds. Then, Naruto and Fu screamed in surprise at the exact same time. What? After a rather lengthy explanation, Naruto stared at Haku. His eyes were bulging out from the astounding news the girl in front of him just brought to him. So, Zabuza, that crazy guy, is getting married to Mizukage Nichin over there? Wow, that's such a big news. Yes, Mei replied with a bright smile. And we would really want you to be at our wedding as our honored guest, Naruto-kun. That's awesome. Naruto replied cheerfully. So should I call you Mizukage Bakken now? The temperature on board the ship suddenly dropped by 20 degrees. Everyone squeaked and scrambled away, as far as possible from the Mizukage, who was looming menacingly above a terrified Naruto's head. You're so lucky you're cute, Naruto-kun, she said with a smile which disturbingly reminded him of Zabuza, but the next time you should watch your mouth before saying those words if you don't want to die, ni? Naruto couldn't do anything but nodded in utter fear. So let's get to the point. Why do you think bringing a battleship here is a good idea? Not to mention, the flagship of your own navy? We are not going to war. Right now, the team was sitting in front of the Mizukage in the meeting room on board the KPN Byakuren. Despite Naruto's angry outburst, Mei still kept her calm demeanor, as though nothing had just happened. That might be true, Naruto-kun. Until the news about Orochimaru appearing at the border of the Land of Water arrived, she said, staring straight into Naruto's eyes. Silence filled the air. Then. What? Naruto blurted out in disbelief. Orochimaru? Why is he here now? I didn't hear anything about that. The Mizukage nodded calmly in response. We have just received the news a few hours before you arrived, Naruto-kun. For the sake of Kirigakure, we must prepare for the worst situation. Orochimaru is not someone you can underestimate. The explanation sounded reasonable. After all, it was mentioned in the mission debriefing Naruto received from the Hokage. However, that isn't the only reason, is it? Everyone turned towards Kosuke, the one who had just spoken. The oldest man on the ship stated as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. If it were just simply because of a missing nin, there would be no need for the Mizukage to go to the front line herself, together with 3 members of the 7 swordsmen and at least 50 more Jonin-level shinobi, and at the same time, mobilizing the most powerful warship of the village. Then he looked straight at the Mizukage's face, and Naruto felt the obvious vibe of an experienced veteran exuding from the old man. If you allow me to, I dare guess that Kirigakure is planning something big. Something like capturing the 3 tails by force. Am I correct, Mizukage-sama? The bomb dropped in the middle of the room was so huge, no one was able to open their mouth for quite a while. Then, Mei narrowed her eyes at the old man. Now I remember, you are Kosuke Maruboshi, the notorious eternal Genin of Konoha. You are definitely not at mere Genin level, aren't you? Glad to know that even Lady Mizukage knows about me, the old man answered her with a smile. Wait, what? Naruto finally woke up from his stupor. What is the meaning of this? What do you mean you are going to capture the 3 tails by force? Didn't I tell you that using violence is just going to make it worse? Calm down and let me explain, Naruto-kun. Even though Mei Terumi was a woman, she wasn't named the Mizukage of the Hidden Mist Village just for show. The aura of authority coming from the woman right now was so overwhelming even Naruto himself had to relent. He sat back down on his chair, waiting for the Mizukage to speak. I know that provoking a tailed beast with violence is unwise, and we are not going to do anything like that. However, if what we are thinking is true, Orochimaru is also aiming to get the three tails for himself. A confrontation with him will definitely result in, at worst, the three tails falling into his hand, and at best, the three tails going on a rampage and destroying Kirigakure. Think about it, Naruto-kun. If you are a Hokage and this happens, are you going to leave this to your subordinates and sit at your desk watching things from a safe distance? As the Mizukage, I have to do everything I can to ensure the safety of my village before thinking about anything else. Naruto's eyes narrowed. What do you mean by that? Oh, isn't that obvious? She means she needs something with enough power to fight a tailed beast ready nearby, so that she can subdue Isobu by force if things getting out of her hands. Everyone in the room jumped in surprise when the feminine voice echoed around the room. That voice, surprisingly, came from Naruto himself? What? Suddenly smoke filled the room. Everyone tensed up, fully expecting an attack. But appearing in the room was the most beautiful woman, almost, everyone had ever seen. Her pearly skin looked like it was shining under the rare rays of light leaking into the room from the cracks on the ship's windows, and the deep blue, long-sleeved kimono she was wearing contrasted nicely with her orange long hair, and the two long fox ears on top of her head. But the most special thing about her was the 9 fluffy tails behind her back. No one knew who the mysterious woman was. Except for Naruto and Fu. Ah, Kurama-san, the female Jinchuriki said, as if this were just an everyday thing to her. Well, it kinda was, considering that it happened very frequently during her training trip. Nice kimono, Naruto also grinned. Decided to change your wardrobe, eh? The woman, now identified as Kurama, glanced back at the two Jinchuriki with a small smile. Then, she turned to the Mizukage, who was still glaring at her with her body tensing up in a battle-ready stance. You can relax. I have no intention of fighting you. I just want to talk to you about something. The Mizukage's glare intensified. Who are you? How did you get into this ship? Why do Naruto-kun and Fu-chan seem to know you? The fox-like woman answered her in a friendly, civilized tone, though her eyes stared straight into the Mizukage's eyes as if her look could penetrate her skull. Nice to meet you. I am the one you human know as the 9-tails demon fox. Do not worry, Naruto over there had me under control, she added upon seeing the Mizukage and everyone else's baffled looks. Can't believe the notorious 9-tails demon fox is such a smoking hot woman, Haku whistled. Kurama threw her a smile, then sat down on the chair across the table, facing the red-haired Mizukage, who was still staring at her with a look containing a mixture of shock, fear and confusion. The fox woman just smirked and returned the stare, straight into the other woman's eyes. What do you want from us? Finally, May managed to speak up. No, scratch that, what does a tailed beast like you want from us? She had really tried to keep the venom in the word tailed beast as low as possible. However, there was no way someone like Kurama didn't notice that. But contrary to May's thought, the fox woman didn't show any change in her expression. She just stared back at the Mizukage with a look full of amusement and pity. Just like I said, I just want to talk, she answered simply. May bristled. Why should I listen to you? You're just a... Kurama didn't let her finish. And that is the exact thing I'm talking about. You are thinking that because we are tailed beasts, we are just mindless, savage tools of destruction who are not worthy of standing beside you humans. You are wrong. Just because we take a beast form doesn't mean we are not sentient beings. I will tell you this, all of us tailed beasts have been in this world way before any of you humans standing here were born. We are children of the Sage of Six Paths, we were all taught what was right and what was wrong by the great sage himself. We wanted to coexist with you humans, but you are the ones who tried to push us away. You have no right to look down on us, if anything, it is us who have the right to look down on you, considering what your species did to us in history. But you attack villages and hurt your citizens? Kurama cut in as if she had read the Mizukage's thought. Certainly, we did. But have you ever stopped to think about the reason why we attacked you? Have you ever considered our feelings? I think not. Human is a conceited race. You always think that everything else on this planet is below you and isn't worth thinking about. You are the ones who attacked us first, thinking that you can use our power as weapons for your quests of domination. And that, alone, would bring your downfall. Why you? The fox woman's eyes didn't even move away from May's face. So? Do you have anything to say about that? Of course, May Terumi didn't have anything to say. Even though Kurama's words were full of arrogance, deep inside, she knew that everything the tailed beast in human shape had just said was true. Even before the first Hokage, Many attempts had been made by tribes of shinobi to capture and control the power of the tailed beasts for wars. And it was also true that shinobi had long since considered tailed beasts mindless creatures hell-bent on destroying everything alive. Maybe it was actually true that her ancestors just used it as an excuse to justify their action. But even if that was true, something in the words of the Nine Tails seemed to anger her. She didn't know what it was, but she was definitely pissed off by the verbal lash coming from the tailed beast. Maybe it was because of her pride as a human being, which couldn't stand being talked down by a creature she unconsciously thought to be not at the level of a human. Knowing that it was wrong didn't help her any little bit. At the other side of the table, the fox in human form was still talking. My little brother is one of the more docile ones among us tailed beasts, so he usually avoid fighting if possible. But if you dare doing anything bad to him, then not only will you face his wrath, you will also have to answer to me. That last sentence was said with clear venom dripping out of each word. Mei couldn't stand it anymore. She stood up from her chair and snarled at Kurama. Don't you dare talk to me like we were the only ones at fault. What do you even know about us? Naruto-kun might approve of you, but do not think that you can say whatever you want. Kurama calmly received the angry look on Mei's face. Oh? Tell me then, what do I not know? There are only 9 of you in this world, so it is understandable that you are able to care for each other, and to protect each other, the Mizukage answered coldly. But we human are different. Unlike you, humankind has existed in this world for far longer than you have ever, and our number has grown far, far bigger and faster than you could imagine. When that happens, it becomes impossible for us to care about anything other than the benefits of ourselves and other people we cherish. Can you even understand that? Are you sure you could still sit there and tell me things like you just said if instead of just 9, your number were 900, or 9,000? Kurama was taken aback by the retort of the other woman in front of her. That was, actually, a question she couldn't find the answer herself. But the nine-tailed fox wasn't someone who would give up that easily. She also stood up and opened her mouth, ready to fire back a retort. Enough. The 2 females recoiled, startled by the sudden shout. The owner of the outburst was none other than Naruto himself. Please, you, too, he said in a calm, but strong, voice. This is not the time for us to bicker like this. All of us here want to achieve the same goal, which is to protect Isabu and not let him fall into the hand of Orochimaru or the Akatsuki. So why can't we just put aside all the conflicts for once and work together? Mei's eyes narrowed. So what are you going to propose, Naruto-kun? Naruto nodded, his voice was still firm. I'm saying that we leave the ship offshore and land on the island in a small boat. We do not need to bring an army with us, either. I am sure with our team and you 4, he pointed at Mei and the 3 members of the 7 swordsmen, there won't be anything bad happening to us. It won't trigger Isabu's wrath, and I'm sure we can deal with whatever happening in there. The 2 women glared at each other again for a second. Then, Kurama humphed, and disappeared back into Naruto's seal in a puff of smoke. Mei glanced back at Naruto. I didn't say that I would let her get away with this. But you will, won't you? Naruto smiled at her tiredly. Just this time, pretty please? The Mizukage glared at him. Then, she waved her hand in defeat. Fine, fine. It will take us until next morning to arrive at the island. We already prepared bedrooms for your team. Go take a rest, we have a lot of things to do tomorrow. Naruto's eyes snapped open. Well, can't blame him, the argument earlier had shaken him so much he couldn't even shrug it off his head to fall asleep properly. It wasn't because any side was wrong. Rather, it was because both sides were right. He had heard the opinion of the tailed beasts about humankind before. While it was disturbing, he couldn't help but agreeing that their idea actually made sense. But now, hearing the argument of Mei Terumi, no matter how peaceful the world can be, there will always be conflicts. If they were among just a small number of people, they might be easy to resolve, but when the conflict is among thousands or millions of people, the Mizukage was correct. In such situation, they would have to choose between trying in vain to appease all sides of the conflict and more than likely ending up with utter failure, or focusing on protecting whatever precious to them first. And any sentient being would naturally choose to protect the ones close to it before even thinking about the others. Kurama and the other tailed beasts, which were small in number and powerful enough to take care of themselves and each other, were never put in such a situation, so they couldn't know what was going on in a person's head when something like that actually happened. But even so, wasn't their instinct of protecting their kin first the very proof that they were not that different to humankind? Thinking about that makes Naruto's head hurt even more. He sighed and jumped down his bed, walking out of the room on the ship he was sharing with Sai and old man Kosuke. The two were sleeping very soundly, and didn't show any sign that they would wake up any sooner than in the morning. Very gently, he opened the door and slipped out, before proceeding onto the deck of the ship. The night was clear, moonlight brightened every sail and mast, making them glitter beautifully just like a diamond in the middle of the sea. The air was mostly quiet, except for the sound of seawater gently slapping the hull under his feet. Naruto couldn't see the captain of the ship. The helm must have been designed inside the ship so that the captain could avoid the harsh weather condition usually seen in the land of water. The deck was almost empty, except for Naruto-kun? Why aren't you sleeping? Naruto turned back, startled from the sudden call. Then he relaxed when he realized that the call was from Haku, who was walking towards him from behind with Fu alongside her. I can't sleep, he answered. Why are you two still awake? It is gonna be a tough mission tomorrow. You should go to sleep to save your energy. You should do it first before telling us to do that. Fu stuck her tongue out at him. She ran past him and jumped to the crow's nest of the ship, sniffing the air happily. Ah! The sea smells so good, Naruto sighed in defeat. He walked towards the starboard and leaned on the rail, taking the salty air of the sea into his lungs. Fu was actually right, the air, while a little briny, smelled quite pleasant, and somehow it managed to ease the tension in his head a bit. Then he felt Haku's hand on his shoulder. You are still thinking about the conversation this evening, aren't you, Naruto-kun? Naruto sighed heavily. Yeah. I can't seem to get it out of my head. Both sides have their own arguments, and they all make sense. Then he suddenly turned towards the girl. What about you, Haku-chan? I want to hear your opinion. For a few seconds, there was absolutely no sound in the air except the sound of the wave below them. Then, Haku said. Yeah, it is impossible for the world to become completely peaceful like you said. But, well, to be honest, I think not every kind of conflict is bad. Humankind or any other species need contradictions in order to develop themselves. If there is absolutely no conflict, no contradiction existing, the world is not going to grow at all. The world would just stay in a stagnant state, then wither away eventually. That is even worse than a few wars here and there. Naruto stared at the girl in disbelief and a bit of anger. So you mean wars are good and we should just let them happen without doing anything? No, Naruto-kun. Haku looked at Naruto with a serious face. War is a bad thing, everyone knows that. What I mean is, just like I said, not every kind of conflict is bad. Some of them, if used in the right way, can even help humankind advance to become better. And peace is obviously a good goal for humankind to achieve, but trying to force peace to the world is a wrong thing to do. It is just like, well, I don't know, forcing a child to become an adult in one single day. It is impossible. Even if you could, it would just bring forth more harms than goods. Then what are we supposed to do? Naruto punched the rail in frustration. Remember the first time we met, Haku-chan? Weren't you ready to kill us if we harmed Zabuza? How can we expect people to understand each other if everyone needs to put themselves and the ones precious to them first? Easy, Fu said. She had landed on the deck next to him since God knows when. Everyone should just think of everyone else as their precious people, and every problem is solved. Naruto stared at his fellow Jinchuriki. It's not that easy. Then we just need to make it easy, I guess, Fu answered simply. If all people in this world are friends, there wouldn't be any need for wars. My dream is to one day see the world become like that, so I wanted to make as many friends as possible. 100, 200. It may be difficult, but I believe if we try our best, our dream will someday come true. I will not stop making friends before my dream comes true. Naruto was dumbfounded by the declaration of the female Jinchuriki. He opened his mouth to protest, but found out he couldn't say a word. Because, wasn't that exactly what he did himself in the past? Almost every single one of his friends used to be his enemies or rivals. Haku, the girl standing in front of him right now, had wanted to fight him and his team to the death the first time they met. Gaara, the 5th Kazekage, had tried to destroy Konoha during his first Chunin exam. Sasuke used to be a murderous broody bastard who was obsessed with revenge and had actually tried to kill him several times before turning over a new leaf and sacrificed himself to protect him during his final battle. Hell, even Kurama, the nine-tailed fox herself, was the one who killed both his parents right after he was born a few minutes. And yet, all those people had now all become his good friends. Suddenly, the seemingly naive and outrageous plan of the female Jinchuriki became not that naive and outrageous. Yeah. Hope so. Sai stood quietly at the corner, listening to the conversation with an emotionless, calculating face. Friendship wasn't a completely alien concept to him. He knew what it meant from the lessons he learned en route, and he knew that the love between two individuals is what helps it form. What he didn't understand was how Naruto, Uzumaki and Fu seemed to think so highly of it. He had been taught since he was still a child that emotions and bonds are the things that hold a shinobi back. Shinobi are the tools for war, they should not be used for anything except being killing machines. Because of that, emotions, loves, bonds, all those things need to be eradicated. He is a shinobi. And right now, he needed to do anything necessary to complete his mission. As a member of Root, the ship arrived at her destination when the sky was still dark. As discussed the last night, the group would send only the minimum number of people to the island so that it wouldn't disturb Isabu unnecessarily. Therefore, right now, standing on the island was just Naruto's team, together with the Mizukage and the 3 members of the 7 swordsmen. "This island is different from what I imagined," Naruto remarked while sniffing the air around him. The quiet air showed that this area is clearly a place human rarely set foot on. "Yeah," Fu agreed. "Isabu really chose a good place to revive in, huh?" Among the group, the only one still keeping a grim face was old man Kosuke. Seeing that, Naruto asked in curiosity, "What's wrong, Kosuke-san?" The old man answered him with his own question. "Did you hear anything?" Naruto blanked. No, but..." The old man looked at him, his eyes gleaming in alert and wariness. "That's the problem. There is absolutely no sound around here. Not even the buzz of insects. This is not natural at all." Naruto's eyes widened in realization. Jiraiya had taught him about this before, a place which was so quiet there was absolutely no sound at all in the air could only mean 2 things, either it was an ambush, or the place had just been through such a devastating battle no living creature survived to make a sound. It seemed Mei and her escorts had also realized this, because they had slipped into their battle stances with their weapons unsheathed. "Naruto-kun," Fu said urgently, the special marking around her eyes showed that she had entered her sage mode. "I feel a very large source of chakra at the center of the island. Around it, there were a few other smaller ones. Isabu is being attacked." Naruto gritted his teeth. Looking at the others, he nodded, and the group all dashed forward, towards the center of the island. And a terrifying scene unfolded before their eyes when they finally reached their destination. The clearing, which must have been a very picturesque scenery before, was completely ruined. The ground was full of scorching marks. Trees were either broken in half or uprooted, and the beautiful lake only had half of the amount of water it was supposed to contain. Lying at the center of the lake was a giant figure with a big, spiky shell, and standing around and on top of it was... well, all the familiar faces. "It's been quite a long time since we last met, Ninetales brat." Naruto glared at the 5 figures standing near Isabu's body with a look full of disgust. Never before had he felt such anger boiling within him. "Orochimaru. It's time for you to depart. You have been chosen as members of the Akatsuki. Do not disappoint us." "Oh, you don't have to worry. After all, you already knew who I am, and why I'm called Lord Conqueror, didn't you? Am I right, my disciple?" From within the shadow, a pair of emotionless, empty eyes opened in answer. Kakashi landed at the edge of the cliff with a light thud. He glanced around, taking the familiar scenery which he didn't ever want to remember again into his view. It had been years since he last visited the site of the Battle of the Kanabi Bridge. That bridge was no more, but the memories had been engraved so deeply into his brain he hadn't dared come back to this place since that destined day. But now he had a reason to come back. He needed to do it, for the sake of a friend he had to save from the darkness. "So you suspect Rin Nohara might not be dead yet?" Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at Kakashi after hearing Guy's report from his mission to Kirigakure. Of course, he had gotten that information for the sake of Kakashi himself, so it was natural for the boisterous Taijutsu master to tell Kakashi about that right after he returned to Konoha, even before reporting to the Hokage. According to what the Mizukage has given us, that assumption might not be very far-fetched, Hokage-sama. Kakashi nodded. Hiruzen scratched his cheek. "What I still cannot understand is why she didn't return to the village if that were the case. It has been quite some time since the revolution of Kirigakure ended, she had more than enough time to return to the village, then go away and then return to the village again. We cannot rule out the possibility of her already being dead." Kakashi nodded. "Indeed. That is why I'm requesting a week of absence." The Hokage blinked. "You're planning to go track her down?" "Yeah," the Cyclops nodded again. "And I have a feeling that I already knew where to find her." And now he was standing here, at the place where everything in his life had changed. He wasn't sure why, but something in his mind told him that not only would he find clues about where Rin actually was here, but the answer for everything was also lying here, waiting for him to expose. Now, Let's find out. With those words, he walked down the hill, towards the place of destiny. For a few seconds, no one dared move a muscle. It's not like they hadn't expected a confrontation with Orochimaru. In fact, when the Mizukage revealed the news that Orochimaru had appeared near Karagakure, Naruto had already known that they would have to encounter him somewhere during the mission. It's just that no one could imagine Orochimaru arriving at Isabu's lair way ahead of them, and even defeating the tailed beast, alone, seemingly without even breaking a sweat. Not to mention that it was freaking creepy to see 5 people that looked exactly the same staring at them with the same crazy slasher smile on their face. Well, Naruto actually didn't have any right to say that, but for the sake of not wasting parts of the story to think about the names for each body of Orochimaru, the author is just going to call them the Orochimaru Corps for now. What do you think about him, guys? He heard Kokuo saying. I'm not sure. His chakra is indeed terrifying for a human. And to be able to defeat Isabu alone without breaking a sweat like that. Maybe he is as powerful as you think. Maybe you should be careful. I know. Even looking at him alone, I can feel the enormous amount of chakra coming from each of his body. What is your intention, Orochimaru? Before Naruto could raise his voice, Mei had already spoken up first. Why are you after the 3 tails now? The Orochimaru Corps replied her all at the same time, still with their nasty smiles. You are too naive to think that I would give you any idea about what I'm going to do. And what would you do if we force you to tell us? Haku retorted, a little bit too confident for her sake. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. Ah, little Haku-chan. Then we must see if you are able to do that first, aren't you? Okay, just stop it with that voice, really. Naruto butted in, annoyance clear in his voice. Seriously, that's just fucking creepy. Listening to one of you talking is already scary enough. 9 tails, Orochimaru answered, still with that creepy Legion voice, turned towards Naruto. What a good opportunity. I haven't forgotten the humiliation you and your curse team gave me in the Forest of Death 3 years ago. Oh really? Naruto retorted in a confident voice. If you already knew that, why don't you run away now? You might be able to avoid another time being humiliated. Do you really think you can do anything to me, demon? Orochimaru sneered. I know that you have just finished some kind of training with the pervert, but trash would always be trash. You still have a long way to go before you could catch up with people like Sasuke-kun. Ah. Chuo. Tenten wrinked her nose when snot and spit hit her face. Ew. Sorry, Sasuke grumbled, wiping his own nose with his sleeve while offering the girl a handkerchief. Maybe someone is talking about me. Curse you, Naruto. So, what do you need of me so much that you need to come to my home to sneeze at my face instead of going to the workshop? Tenten raised an eyebrow. Well. Sasuke twiddled his fingers not unlike a certain Hyuga girl, which raised Tenten's eyebrow even higher. Can we get inside first? The girl of Team Guy grimaced in disgust. Ew. Are you hitting on me? Wait until I tell Sakura about this. Somehow Sasuke's face managed to blush and pale at the same time. No. I mean, I'm not trying to flirt with you. I'm just here for business. I mean, I have something I want to ask you for assistance. Tenten still glared at the Uchiha with suspicion, but after a few seconds, she turned and led the Uchiha into her house. After the pair had managed to settle down on the couch in Tenten's living room, she asked. Okay, spill it. What do you want? Sasuke went straight to the point. You were the one who made Naruto's mechanical arm 3 years ago, aren't you? Tenten was a little bit taken aback. Well, no. That arm was created by my dad, but I believe if I try, I can make something which might stand equal, if not better than that now. I have learned quite a lot from my dad in the last 3 years, you know. Excellent. Sasuke grinned. So what if I tell you I want to collaborate with you in making something way bigger than that? Tenten couldn't say anything for exactly 4 seconds. Then, at the 5th, she answered with the biggest grin anyone could ever see on her face. I'm listening. Then let's see how this trash is going to kick your ass, Orochimaru. That growl came from Naruto. He opened his eyes, and everyone could see he had entered Sage mode in just that single second. Orochimaru still smirked, although his smile had faltered a little bit. Sage mode. So you have become stronger than the last time we met, Nine Tails. Chakra suddenly burst from Naruto's body. Everyone had to cover their eyes when a pillar of light swept through them, blinding them momentarily in the process. When the light died down, Naruto was covered once again in his chakra shroud he received from Kurama and the tailed beasts. But different from what it used to be, instead of its usual cloak-like form, the shroud now looked more like a body-fitting armor shielding his chest, torso and crotch, with arm braces, shoulder pads, boots and a helmet made of glowing, golden chakra. Black lines could be seen clearly engraved on each of the armor's parts, connecting to and expanding the spiral seal on his torso. Surrounding his body, there were 3 black spheres which rotated around him like 3 tiny satellites. And the most astounding thing about it was Tailed Beast Chakra. Together with Sage Mode. Impressive. But you must be an idiot to think that you can defeat me alone with just that. Suddenly a beam of chakra cut through the air, aiming at the Orochimaru core, and the Snake Sanin actually had to jump away to avoid being reduced to atoms by the surprised bombardment from above. The beam pierced the ground, leaving a big gaping hole right between Naruto and the Orochimaru core. Fu landed on the ground next to Naruto. The tip of her staff was still glowing with energy. "Don't worry," she glared at Orochimaru. "He's got help." 7 tails too. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. There was a hint of worry in his face now. "So you decided to gang up on me, huh?" Not only her, the voice of Mei rose from behind Naruto. She had walked up to the 2 Jinchuriki while cracking her knuckles. "You should be worried, because every person here all shares the goal of finally killing you once and for all." "Big talk," the Orochimaru core sneered. 3 years ago you could only do something to me because you were with the 2 most powerful shinobi Konoha had to offer. What do you think you can do with only these 2 monsters as your backup? Naruto glared at the middle body of Orochimaru. "Of course I know what I can do," he answered curtly, and his mouth curled up into a smile. "And you will go down here. Because I already knew your weakness." Then he moved. The force of him kicking the ground was so strong the ground under him was torn apart violently, and in less than a blink of an eye, he appeared in the middle of the Orochimaru formation. What speed! The golden bullet then launched his palm forward. It connected with the body standing in the middle of the formation, who seemed to be too shocked to react, and the body was launched violently into the rock formation behind it with a force so great a web of cracks was formed all over the surface of the very hard rock. Not stopping there, Naruto spun on his feet, and a tornado of chakra exploded from his body, tossing the 4 other bodies of Orochimaru around not unlike Neji's full power rotation. The tornado died down, and the 4 Orochimaru were thrown away. Their bodies flailed around in the air helplessly before crashing into the ground with 4 similarly sickening cracks. The 4 Orochimaru stood up nearly immediately. They started going through hand seals very quickly, but before anything could be done. Lava style, restrict lock. Surges of hot liquid lava burst up from underground. Upon contacting Orochimaru's bodies, they immediately hardened, trapping them in prisons made of incredibly sturdy concrete. And 4 massive Rasengan slammed down their heads from above. "Whoa! Hokage breathed out in awe. Naruto-kun has become incredibly strong." Mizukage-sama too, Shiro narrowed his eyes. If it were Fu-san and Naruto-san I could understand, but to think that even Mizukage-sama can cooperate with him so flawlessly. "It's not over yet," Kosuke suddenly said. "Watch out." Sharp spikes made of white bone erupted from the ground all around the battlefield, and the shinobi of the alliance had to retreat quickly to avoid being skewered. The swordsmen swung their swords to cut down the spikes, but more and more of them burst out from the field to replace the downed ones almost immediately. "Brace yourself!" the old man yelled. He slammed his right foot down, and the forest of spikes stopped expanding immediately. One by one, they retreated back into the ground, returning the battlefield to its original state. From the craters, the 4 bodies which had just been hit by the giant Rasengan stood up, cracking their necks as if nothing happened. And the main body which had been punched into the rocks also walked out from the piles of debris. On his hand was a sword made of something that looked like a spine, showing that the body used to belong to Kimimaro Kaguya, the leader of the Sound Four who wielded the Kekkei Genkai Shikatsu Myaku. Naruto gritted his teeth. Of course it can't be that easy. Orochimaru responded in kind. The bone sword on his hand separated into pieces, connected by a chain. Naruto didn't know what it was made from. It lashed out like a whip, swiping at the Naruto clones who were charging forward. Even though the whip sword looked fragile as hell, its strength was more than enough to dispel all the Naruto clones enhanced with both Sage and Tailed Beast chakra in a single hit. The area was filled with smoke in an instant. Then a Rasen Shuriken tore apart the smokescreen, aiming at all 5 bodies of Orochimaru. Instead of the greenish-blue color the technique usually had, the giant chakra shuriken was now glowing in a dark golden color, showing that it was pumped full of karamas and nature chakra. It crossed the distance between Naruto and the Orochimaru core at a blinding speed, and it seemed they were going to be shredded into minced meat. However, that never happened. Before the jutsu could even travel half its way, the body with 6 arms had already jumped into action. From its 6 wrists, web shot out, grabbing rocks scattering around the battlefield and pulled them in front of the Orochimaru core, crashing into the incoming Rasen Shuriken. With the sudden collision, Naruto's jutsu was forcefully detonated, forming a vortex of wind so strong it nearly threw everyone off their feet. Debris covered the battlefield. Then Orochimaru's voice rose from behind the vortex of wind. Scorch style, Daimonji. A ball of scorching hot fire burst out of the wind vortex. Coincidentally, thanks to the Rasen Shuriken, the power of the already powerful jutsu was amped up even further, and when it hit Naruto, it exploded violently into a flower made of crimson fire, drowning the Jinchuriki in a sea of light and heat. "Naruto-kun!" Haku screamed. But when the explosion died down, she sighed in relief. Naruto was shielded in a barrier made of the black substance from the 3 orbs rotating around him. The barrier retreated back into the orbs, and everyone could see there wasn't even a single scratch on him. The black shield was just that powerful. "Out of the way, Naru-kun!" From behind him, Fu yelled. Glancing back at her, Naruto immediately understood what was going to happen. His eyes widened, and he hastily jumped aside before. Lightning style, thunder calamity. A blizzard of thousands of daggers made of pure lightning chakra tore through the air and rained down the Orochimaru core heads. With the incredible speed and covering range of the jutsu, dodging is impossible. There's no way Orochimaru could avoid this. However, they had underestimated someone like Orochimaru too much. The body with 6 arms, now standing at the center of the formation, which used to belong to Kitamaru of the Sound 5, immediately made blindingly quick hand signs with all 6 of its hands. It spat out a string of something golden from its mouth, which quickly spread around and formed a cage made of gold around the Orochimaru formation. The electric daggers were all absorbed into the cage and drained into the ground harmlessly. Then Orochimaru saw Fu's face. The right side of her mouth was rising upward into a smirk. Why is she? Wait, where's the die? When? No, it couldn't be. Orochimaru Kimimaro hastily and desperately threw his head backward. From his mouth, a new body shot out right before Naruto's planetary Rasengan landed on the old body and tore it to shred. The power of the jutsu, enhanced by the momentum of the 3 satellite smaller Rasengan rotating around the core, was so immense the mere shockwave coming from the impact was enough to tear apart the gold cage as if it were made from paper. Dust, debris, gold and Orochimaru, pieces and bodies, flew everywhere. How? Orochimaru snarled when scrambling back to his feet. Shinobi older, smarter than you thousands of times have spent all their lives to figure out the jutsu to no avail. How could an idiot with no talent like you manage to learn the Flying Thunder God jutsu? Looks like you underestimated our power, Naruto grinned. Just like you did in Konoha years ago. And that is exactly your weakness, Orochimaru. In the middle of their usual meat Ichiraku ramen, Naruto suddenly brought out a strange question. Hey, pervy sage. Do you know what Orochimaru's weakness might be? Jiraiya blinked when he heard Naruto's question. Well, that is a very difficult question to answer, the old sage admitted. When it comes to ninjutsu and things, I don't think that bastard has any weakness at all. He had managed to almost reach immortality after all. That is where you are wrong, my student. The 2 shinobi turned towards the entrance of the store, where the new voice had just emerged from. But the old ramen chef was the one who raised his voice first. Lord Hokage. Long time no see. Hiruzen entered the store with a smile. Long time no see, Tucci. And you too, Itachi, he added upon seeing the Uchiha entering from the back. The man only nodded in return. One of my usual favorite, please. Coming right up. After the 3rd Hokage had settled down on his own stool, Naruto spoke up. So you know what Orochimaru's weakness is, don't you, Jigi? Of course I know, Hiruzen nodded. After all, this is a very common weakness of shinobi who thought of themselves as powerful, you know. Naruto blinked. And that is? The Hokage smiled. It is. I still couldn't believe someone like you would fall for something like that. Fu raised her voice, her staff was still smoking after the bombardment jutsu. Just a few sluggish moves, some mediocre jutsu and a little bit of showing off, and you're already hell-bent on thinking that we are just 2 weaklings who can't do anything but wasting our tailed beast's chakra. Then she added with a grin of her own. If that is everything a legendary Sannin can do, then you still have a long way to catch up with us. Orochimaru's face turned purple with fury. After I'm done with you, there won't be a bone left in your pathetic body, you cheeky bitch. Wicked, purple chakra started leaking out of all 5 bodies when black marks began spreading over them. Soon, All of Orochimaru's bodies entered their stage 2 cursed seal states at the same time. Naruto grinned. Now this is when the real battle begins. Anything, Pakun? The ninja puppy glanced back at his partner. Just as you thought, Kakashi. It is very vague, but there definitely is some of her odor here. Just like. It has been here for years already. For how long? Pakun shook his head. No way to know. Based on the strength of the smell, it might be about 14 or 15 years. Or maybe even more, I guess. But there is no way to tell exactly when. Kakashi winced. Pakun was the ninkin with the best sense of smell in his pack, and if even he couldn't figure it out, there was no way anyone else could. Still, it was still a result. 14 or 15 years. That is about the time when the Third Shinobi World War was over, he mused. So she did come here after she was released from her custody. There is another weird thing, actually. The Jonin blinked. What is it? Her smell exists not only on the surface. Though very difficult to detect, it reaches out underground too. Kakashi's eyes narrowed. What? The battle, as expected, soon turned into a gigantic carnage. Not only did the cursed mark transformation boost the power of each body massively, it also gave the users a massive, nearly unlimited amount of chakra, to the point they could throw devastating jutsu around as if they were nothing. And Naruto was now regretting his decision of provoking Orochimaru, after being bombarded by at least 20 high-powered techniques, each of which had the power to destroy a battalion. Even though they couldn't hurt him thanks to his truth-seeking shield, the destructive power of those jutsu might hurt the others. And the worst thing was, even though Orochimaru had to resort to the cursed marks to gain advantage, his teamwork still didn't lose any touch. Maybe I shouldn't have pissed him off, Naruto thought while throwing up his shield to deflect another explosion. You just realized this now? Kurama said dryly. And you'd better hurry up, you only have 5 minutes left until that form reaches its limit. Naruto winced. This was the first time he used that new form, which he named Tailed Beast Sage Mode, in actual battle, and he hadn't thought about the time until Kurama mentioned it. Up until now, he could only maintain that form for 15 minutes straight. After that time limit he would have to power down and wouldn't be able to use it again for 3 days. He had to duck when a drill made of bones nearly pierced through his forehead while wreathed in flame, being shot from the gold bow of the six-armed body. We won't be able to do anything if we just let all 5 Orochimaras stay close to each other like this. He glanced at Fu and Mei. No word was said, but both of them understood what he meant. We need to separate them. Summoning his swords into his hands, he rushed Orochimaru Kimimaro, who was also charging at him, this time with the sword of Kusanagi ready on his own hand. Like two dancers entwining in a deadly sword dance, the two shinobi traded blows after blows. Usually, in a battle between swords, the swordsman with the better blade would come out victorious. And the Kusanagi, which belonged to Orochimaru, was infamous for being one of the sharpest, sturdiest swords in the whole history of bladed weapons. If trading blows directly, there's no doubt that almost none of the swords in existence now could survive 2 clashes with the evil katana on Orochimaru's hand. However, Naruto was one of the rare people who could bypass that common rule. His Nichiren Ryu sword style, taught to him by a descendant of the famous swordsman Musashi Miyamoto, was created to fight against opponents with bigger, better swords. The creator himself had defeated a lot of enemies during his time with that style, including the infamous swordmaster Kojiro Sasaki. That style doesn't focus on powerful strikes, but rather on quick, well-timed parries of his enemy's own strikes and then wearing them down in a battle of stamina. That was why Master Miyamoto, wielding only 2 makeshift swords made from a wooden oar, could defeat Kojiro even though his opponent owned one of the best swords in the world. And if Kojiro Sasaki, one of the greatest swordmasters in the history of humankind, the one who was in possession of the legendary skill Tsubamegashi, the undodgeable sword skill which is said to be able to cut down a flying swallow, had to admit defeat against the owner of the Nichiren Ryu style, then how could a normal swordsman like Orochimaru could even think about overcoming it, even with the best sword in the world? And it seemed Orochimaru himself realized this. Because the two had traded more than 50 blows already, but Orochimaru still hadn't been able to land a single hit. Even worse, it felt like he was being pushed back. How did this brat manage to grow so much in such a short time? Another thing that pissed him off was, even though the brat was obviously using the beast's power, he didn't even transform into the beast form. It was just like he was toying with him. He didn't even think of Orochimaru as a worthy enemy of using his full power. Snarling, the snake Sanin threw the Kusanagi at Naruto. The sword flew at the Jinchuriki like a missile, but it was nothing against Naruto's enhanced reflex, He only needed to lean aside for the sword to fly past him. Using that moment, Orochimaru went through very quick hand signs. Fire style, dragon gunfire. The scorching white flame from Orochimaru Kimimara's mouth shot out towards Naruto. Even with the chakra cloak protecting him, Naruto knew it would hurt a lot if it hit. So he also dropped his swords, and went through the hand seals of one of the simplest water jutsus he knew, pumping as much chakra as possible into it. Water style, water gun. The jet of water shot out of Naruto's own mouth wasn't a normal water stream at all. Rather, it was like the most gigantic fire hose in the world had just erupted. The two jutsus clashed violently against each other, making a dangerously loud hiss in the air and at the same time covering the whole vision of the two shinobi in a thick cloud of steam. "Hey! Dodge to the left, Naruto!" The sudden yell of Goku from inside his head startled the Jinchuriki. He hastily leaned aside again, right before an arm bone flew past where his head had been just a moment ago and stabbed itself on the trunk of a tree behind him. And to his horror, the tree started disintegrating. Not breaking down, not burning, the tree was disintegrating bit by bit starting from the place the bone struck it. What the heck is that? From the look of it, that should be all killing ash bone, but that technique is supposed to be lost forever. Naruto heard Kokuo exclaiming inside his head. Even though the Shikatsu Miyaku Kekkei Genkai is derived from her ability, it shouldn't even be able to reach that level. How did that bastard Orochimaru do it? Now is not the time to worry about that. Naruto thought urgently when he felt similar chakra to the attack coming from where Orochimaru was standing, albeit in a much bigger scale. It's obvious that the Snake Sannin was planning to go wild with the attack to take him down at any cost. It's impossible to dodge all of them if that's the case. And if he let Orochimaru let loose the attack, it would harm the others, too. Then I would have to match all of them with my own attack. And doing that was something very easy for him. He had been able to match the attack of the first Hokage himself. Something like this was just like a child's play to him. Hundreds of kunais and swords of all kinds appeared from thin air and surged forward right at the moment the bones shot out from Orochimaru Kimimara's body. The two rains of projectiles met each other in midair and completely neutralized each other in deafening clashing noises. Shrapnel flew everywhere. Some of the shrapnel was thrown towards the three swordsmen and the other members of Team Naruto. Chojuro reacted immediately, using his sword to block them, but when the shrapnel touched the outer cover of Haramkare, the sheath itself started disintegrating, too. Damn it. So even small pieces have the same power. He couldn't prolong the battle any further. He needed to finish this right now. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 3 clones of Naruto appeared in a puff of smoke. Chakra swirled, and a Rasengan formed in an instant in Naruto's palm. The 3 clones gathered around him, beginning to create his most powerful jutsu. Then suddenly Naruto felt a sharp, piercing pain in his stomach. He looked down, and saw the blade of the Kusanagi protruding out of his torso. Gah? How? He collapsed onto the ground in pain when the sword ripped itself out of his stomach and flew back to Orochimaru, who grabbed it by the hilt easily while walking towards him with an arrogant smirk. "You arrogant brat. You think that you can afford not going all out against me? Too bad for you. That arrogance would be the very same thing that brings your downfall here, Ninetales." Naruto could only look up at the Snake Sannin with a glare full of anger. Orochimaru walked up, with the Kusanagi raised high, ready for the final strike. Then Naruto smirked and disappeared in a burst of smoke. Orochimaru Kimimara's eyes widened when he realized what was going to happen. He tried to jump away, but there was no way he could avoid the Rasengan slamming into his stomach from the real Naruto who had been hidden underground. Naruto landed on the ground with a laugh. So who's being an arrogant brat now? At the same time, Mei was fighting the 2 Orochimaru bodies which used to belong to Jirobo and the Sakanukan brothers. Despite being outnumbered 3-1, she was still holding herself pretty well against the enemies. She clapped her hands together, and the ground rumbled. Lava and rock erupted from under the surface and melded together, forming a gigantic golem. It let out a roar, and threw a nasty punch at the Orochimaru core. But before the punch could hit, Orochimaru Jirobo had jumped forward and met the punch with his own punch. The force of the punch was so incredible it shattered the golem back into shards of debris and rocks. But if that were everything the Mizukage could do, she wouldn't have been called the Mizukage, after all. She quickly flipped through another series of hand seals. The fragments of the golem scattering around the battlefield immediately melted back into lava and surged upward into a humongous wave of magma. Orochimaru's eyes widened when the wave towered over his head and was about to crash down on him. "Oh son of a bi!" Orochimaru Sakan immediately went through very fast hand seals. The 2 heads opened their mouth and spat out a torrent of water at the incoming magma wave. It wasn't enough to stop the whole thing, but at least what it managed to do was splitting up the waves so that the two Orochimaru's wasn't charbroiled by the overheated lava. Rock Wrecker. Orochimaru Jirobo's eyes widened. Rock what? Then a giant fist made of rock smashed into his face. He flew away like a ragdoll, which was something rather impressive coming from the Mizukage, as Jirobo's body was very fat and heavy. You buy not yet. This is not the time to hold back my assault. Lava style, acid rain, Mei yelled, and spat out a shower of sickly yellowish-green liquid at the two bodies of Orochimaru. Anything touched by the liquid was melted immediately, and Orochimaru had to hastily retreat back to avoid being liquefied by the technique. Damn it! If this continues, even these bodies won't be able to hold it. Under the relentless pressure from the Mizukage, Orochimaru Sakan didn't realize that he had been forced towards the direction of Orochimaru Jirobo, who was still lying on the ground, stunned from the attack of the Mizukage. And that was the final nail in the coffin. Ice style, chilling prison. Immediately, the two Orochimarus were trapped in the icicle prison, courtesy of Haku. They tried to break out, but couldn't even move a muscle to use hand seals. The only place on their bodies they could move was their mouths. After all, you are still a coward. Still couldn't face me alone. Look who's talking. Haku, from behind, walked forwards and stuck out her tongue at him. You're the one who ganged up on the three tails yourself first. Orochimaru Sakan snarled. He opened his mouth wide, ready for his special substitution jutsu. Only for a lock made of ice being stuffed right into his open mouth. The girl wagged her finger mockingly at him. Can't let you do anything to escape, can we? Now, stay there and watch. Orochimaru couldn't do anything before the icicle prison was complete, locking both of his body inside helplessly. Meanwhile, Fu was having troubles with Orochimaru Kitamaru and Orochimaru Tuya. It's not like she didn't have enough power to overcome them. In fact, if it came to firepower, with the help of Chomei and her Hyperia form, there was no way she could lose to them. However, that was only true if she were fighting them one by one. In a fight when one side had the superiority in number, there was no way to tell that one side had a clear advantage or not, even if they were more powerful. And unfortunately for Fu, she was facing Orochimaru here. His raw power might not be able to compare to what she possessed, but when it came to experience, he had decades more than her. A 16-year-old girl simply couldn't have enough strategic skills to compare to two legendary senins, even if she was trained by one. And worse for her, he was pissed. She could fly. But too bad for her, Kitamaru was the member of the Sound Five with the best anti-air strategic advantage. He could create a bow which, with his 6 arms, could shoot arrows with the velocity of anti-air missiles. Just like what she was being shot with, right now. Aw crap. Maybe pissing him off like that isn't a good idea after all. Another arrow made of gold whizzed across her face, slicing a strand of her hair off and leaving a rather deep cut on her cheek. Ow. Meanwhile, Orochimaru Tuya was still following Fu's movements on the sky. Then, without any warning, she, or was it he? Opened whatever, mouth and screamed. Suddenly Fu felt something hit her chest with the force of a truck. Losing her focus, she fell from the sky and hit the ground painfully. Had anyone stood next to her, they could have heard the sound of bones cracking from her body. As a member of the elite Sound 5 of Otogakuer, Tuya was chosen by Orochimaru thanks to her special ability, which allows her to manipulate sound waves. With the ability, she could do a lot of things, including using music to control puppets and cast sound-based genjutsu. However, Orochimaru doesn't have any talent in music, so a lot of skills he inherited from Tuya after taking over her body were unusable to him. However, it didn't stop him from just screaming at his enemy with the speed of sound and the power of a cannonball. Fu-chan. Are you alright? Even Chomei was so shocked by the sudden surprised attack she couldn't react in time to shield Fu from the impact with the ground. Another gold arrow was released from the deadly bow on Orochimaru Kitamaru's hands. There was no way she could ever dodge the arrow coming for her with more than enough speed and power to pierce through her and a few rocks behind her. There was only one choice. Blossom Shield, Fortress Mode. Not 1, but 10, shields made of chakra appeared out of thin air and formed a line in front of Fu, standing in the way and taking a direct hit from the incoming missile. To the Jinchuriki's horror, the arrow pierced through the first 9 layers of the barrier line as if they were made of rice paper. Gritting her teeth, she pumped more chakra into the last one, and it exploded violently, throwing the arrow off course, but not before leaving her a few burn marks on her arms, legs and body. Her magical girl outfit was torn at the chest and torso due to taking a direct hit from the explosion, exposing the lower part of her breasts and her navel. But thankfully, the move managed to help her avoid the worst outcome. The battlefield was immediately covered with a thick cloud of smoke. And then she felt it. Both bodies of Orochimaru dashed out of the smokescreen and flanked her from both sides. Their Kusanagi swords were aiming for her neck. And she knew this was when she made a turnabout. She stretched her arms to the sides, and two blossom shields appeared in a flash of light, stopping the two swords dead on their ways. But Orochimaru didn't even falter. The Kusanagi sword is the sharpest sword in the world. There's no way those flimsy energy shields could stop it for long. Binding shield. What? Chains made of pure orange energy burst out from the surfaces of the shields and immediately wrapped themselves around Orochimaru Kitamaru and Orochimaru Tuya, who were both too close to even think of avoiding. In just a blink of an eye, they were completely restrained from moving even a muscle. "It's a mistake of yours to think that I would take on someone like you alone," Fu said with a triumphant grin. "Because, no matter how strong I am, or would become." And two swords pierced Orochimaru Tuya and Orochimaru Kitamaru from behind. "We are still a team," Kosuke, the owner of one of the swords, finished the sentence for her. "They got him," Chojuro exclaimed. "Wait a bit," Shiro suddenly said. "Something is wrong." A deafening howl, which sounded like it came from a very angry animal, made him flinch. Then everything went chaotic in just a blink of an eye. "What the hell is this?" Kakashi grimaced when he reached the place Pakun had gotten the trace of Rin's odor from. It was something way beyond his capability to imagine. The place was a gigantic chamber which had no reason to be underground at all, with flat walls and torches lighting up the space covered with giant tree roots. But the thing astonishing him the most was hundreds of thousands of the same creatures which had been the enemy force at the siege of Sunagakuer. Kakashi wasn't someone who would feel fear easily. But right now, he was feeling sweat running down his cheek uncontrollably. If this army were deployed all at once, Konoha would be eradicated in less than a day, no matter how many skilled shinobi she had. No, screw Konoha, he didn't even know if an alliance of every single great village in this continent could stand against this monstrosity of an army. "So you managed to find this place?" As expected of the famous Kakashi of the Sharingan. Kakashi looked back, and realized he was looking at the masked man of the Akatsuki. "So this is your doing?" He calmly looked at the enemy's face, which was hidden under the orange spiral mask without any sign of fear. His enemy snorted. "Well, maybe. But you are not going to leave this place alive to talk about that." Kakashi smiled under his mask. "We'll see about that." His Sharingan morphed into the pinwheel shape of the Mangekyo Sharingan, and Kakashi disappeared in a vortex. Kakashi landed on a pillar in the Kamui dimension. Even though he had practiced a lot with the Mangekyo technique, saying that it didn't give his chakra reserve a considerable drain after each use would be a very big stretch. "You think you can escape from me by running away into this dimension?" He turned. The masked man was materializing into the dimension in a similar way he did himself, in a spiral vortex. "So it is true," the Cyclops mused. "I have been hoping that my idea was wrong. That it was just a crazy idea of a desperate man who couldn't escape from his own sins. But..." The masked man didn't say anything. He just looked at Kakashi's face with an impassive expression, still hidden under his mask. "Why are you doing this?" The two Mangekyo Sharingan with the same pattern stared into each other. "Obito?" That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.